Is there like a link?
It's supposed to be.
This?
Good.
Hey, I'm in.
Cool. 1 second, I gotta fix this. How about you wanna move it over a little bit? Yeah, Danny, I can't see myself yet.
Let me see if I can help you.
Well, Abba, you wanna move that camera over very slightly? Start my video.
Yes, you're live, Rabbi. Not live here yet.
Fine.
Just
Good. No. This is good. This is good. Okay, I'm going to.
how are you feeling, Rabbi?
I'm feeling much better now than before.
Baruch Hashem.
April Fools, I'm giving the shiur.
Hi, Abba. Wow.
That's so interesting. What's up?
Good. And you?
Baruch Hashem.
How are you feeling in the rabbi's chair?
Oh, it's nice. It's so weird. 1 second. That's the Zoom camera? It's so cool.
No. Oh, Jojo. 1 second.
Okay.
All right.
No,
I did it. That's good. It's good. We're good on time, right? Right. We're not late. Not late at all.
No, you're good on time, Rabbi. You have 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
I need those 2 minutes. Taking them. All right. Great. Oh, did I do that? Okay.
Are we ready? We're ready.
I'm ready.
Yes.
Okay.
Do it.
With the help of Hashem, we are learning Shabbos Daf Koyach. We are dedicating these classes, L'Refuah Shalema, to all those that became ill from the coronavirus, and for the merit that all of us that are healthy should continue to be healthy. We left off on Daf Chav Zayin Amid Beis. The last din that we learned, the second din that we learned in the Mishnah, was a very interesting din, and we're going to be learning this entire sugya, Kishitas Toisvis, that even though when something is mechuber like karka, it should have a din of karka, and it should not be susceptible to becoming tamei. Nevertheless, there is a unique halacha regarding pishtan, and as we'll see today in the Gemara, it's not only about pishtan, but speaking about that out of a tree. And from all items that come from a tree, flax is unique, that even when it's connected to the karka.
Rabbi, 1 second. Daniel Ram needs to mute his phone, and anybody that's not talking needs to mute their phone. Sorry, Rabbi.
And even when it's connected to the land, it's connected to the earth, it's connected to the walls, flax still remains susceptible to becoming tamei. That is what we learned in the Mishnah. And again, as we'll see, that is really not unique to flax. There are other exceptional items that even while they are mechuber, they can become tamei. And we're going to go through the exact tumas oil in a moment. But the Mishnah again is speaking about pishtan vis-a-vis any other item that comes out of wood. Now, another important detail just to review. We're speaking here specifically about tumas oil. When we're speaking about tumas oil, we are not at all addressing what type of oil has the koyach to convey the corpse tumah. Any oil, any covering, as long as it has, we learned a few daf ago, a minimum of a size of a tefach. If it's covering some of the mace, some of a person, that person will become tamei. That keli will become tamei. Here we're speaking about whether the tent, the oil, the covering itself becomes tamei. And therefore, you'll have to take it to the mikveh. In other words, we're speaking about, it's good to remember this rule, mitame mitashva means to convey, mitame means to contract. We're learning here about the din of mem mitachidik. So the Mishnah speaks about pishtan, and again, we're going to learn about other exceptional items as well. And all of this is connected to the Mishkan, to the actual Mishkan. We're going to be learning today that there was a machloikas here on Daf Shabbos Chav Ches. How many coverings did the Mishkan have? Everyone holds that the bottom-most covering, which is actually called Mishkan, if you're going to remember this, the whole sugya will be easy. It was made out of panels of woven flax. The one above it is called oil, and it was made out of woven goat's hair. Then there is a machlekes whether there was only one more on top, a third one, or whether there was a third and a fourth one. Both opinions will hold that above the oil, whatever goes on top of that is called the michsei, literally meaning the covering, and it's made out of animal's hide. And any part of any type of covering that was used in the Mishkan, as we'll be learning, even though the Mishkan is considered halachically kavua, affixed, you can argue how was it affixed? Really, that's a machlekes rishonim, how the pegs went into the ground. Halachically, the Mishkan is considered affixed to the ground, kavua. Nevertheless, they are mitame, they acquire tumah. Okay, we're going to learn about a big machlekes between Rabbi Yosef and Rava, whether we say that non-kosher hide that's connected to the building is also susceptible or not. That's going to lead us into the question whether there was any non-kosher hide in the coverings of the Mishkan. Any material that was used in the covering of the Mishkan will acquire tumas oil, it itself becomes tamei, and therefore really the machlekes will lead us into the question of the tachash, whether the tachash was a kosher animal, whether it was a non-kosher animal, and that will be connected to whether a non-kosher hide can become itself tamei. We're going to learn various halachas about tefillin. It's amazing. We're learning sugyas of tumah and tara, but last year we learned about tzitzis. Today we learn a little bit about tefillin. We're going to learn a lot about the tachas, like we mentioned. We're going to God really learn on Daf Chav Ches Amud Beis in the new Mishnah the following rule: material beged is susceptible to becoming tamei. We just learned a few daf ago, Daf Chavav, Daf Chav Zayin, that if you have a material made either out of flax or out of linen, out of wool or out of linen, even if they only have the size of shalish al shalish, 3 by 3 finger breadths, they are susceptible to becoming tummy. Now, another rule, we're not going to debate that rule. If you transform a beged into a wick, the moment it's halachically called a wick, it's no longer even susceptible to becoming tummy. It was common that people used for wicks, they took these little garments and they would fold them over. And on top of that, the norm then was to singe them. Parenthetically, even though the main mitzvah of lighting Shabbos candles is on the woman, when there's a woman in the home, there's a mitzvah for a man to be involved. Ideally, the man should be setting up the candles. And I remember my father and my grandfather, what they used to do is that they used to singe the wicks before the wife, before the mother of the home would light the candles. Today, it's not that common. Today, the wicks are made in a way that they easily catch fire. But in the days of old, like in the Mishnah, if you're using a garment, making a garment by folding it over, making it into a wick, after you singed it, that means after you chopped fire on it, then you put it out for the woman to do the mitzvah and light the candles. Then it's considered a bona fide wick. So we're going to have a machlokes in the Mishnah whether folding the garment without singeing it, whether it's considered a wick, or whether it's still considered a beged. Then there's going to be two consequences that will be an outcome of this machlokes tanoi between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva. And with that, let us start on the Chav Zayin Amid Beis, 3 lines before the bottom of the Amid, when the Mishnah is the Gemara is referring back to the Mishnah that b'hayotzim min ha'etz, from all products that leave trees, einoi mitame metachirik tuma soihalim elo pishtan, conveying tuma, any material conveys tuma. But if it's mechuber, the rule is karka cannot become tamei, and mechuber lekarka doesn't become tamei. But pishtan, from all articles that come in ha'etz, have this unique din that even though it's affixed in the building, the roof itself made out of flax becomes tamei. And therefore, you have to do to it what you have to do to any keli that becomes tamei, and which is tumas meis. It has to be, you have to have the hazah from the mechatos on the 3rd day and on the 7th day and take it to the mikveh, etc. Okay. So the question is, asks the Gemara, the last line of the Minola, right? What do we know? Why should it acquire tumah? It's connected. Amar Rabbi Lazar, it says Rabbi Lazar Gomar, oil mi mishkan. Chavre, we're turning to Daf Chaf Ches Amid Aleph. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Malachenu Shakol Yodvai. In other words, it's a Gzeira Shava. Ksiv Hach, it says over here referring to a pasuk in Parsha Chukas, which is the Parsha of Tumas Meis, Zois HaTorah Adam Kiyamus Ba'oil. The Torah uses the word oil. And it says Hassan over there, referring to a pasuk in Parshas Pekudei, right? Vayiferois es ha'oil al hamishkan, right? That they spread the oil over the Mishkan. Now, as we spoke out in our words of intro, in Chevra, this is a simple. You get this, you get the whole Amid over here. If you want to go into Pratim, you have 3 names to the coverings. You have Mishkan, oil, and Michsei. Like we said, the Mishkan refers to the closest to the building. The bottommost covering, which was made out of flax, that is specifically called the Mishkan. The one above it, which was the middle one, if there were only 3, is called the oil, which was made out of goat's hair. The top one, or the 3rd and the 4th ones, were made out of animal hides. Now, even though we specifically give each one a different name, Mishkan, oil, and Michsei, they all could also be called with a generic word of Mishkan. So the fact that the Torah says Vayifrois es ha'oil al hamishkan, now specifically, you see how these words make sense. It's good to learn this. We read this in Chitas, we don't chop the words. Vayifrois es ha'oil al hamishkan, you chop, because first they put the lowest one, called the Mishkan, the flax one. Then they would take the 2nd covering made out of goat's hair, it's called the oil, and they would spread the oil over the Mishkan. Now in this, that's the exact good shot in the pasuk. But we're making a drush, and in the drush, we are not differentiating between the oil and the Mishkan. We're calling everything oil. Any level, all of the covers are going to be called here oil. So we have oil. So Malahalon, just like one of the coverings were made out of Pishtan, the exact one is called the Mishkan, but generally it also can be called an oil. Called oil, Afkan. So here also in Chukas, when the Torah speaks about Zois HaTorah Adam Kiyamus Ba'oil, so there's a unique tuma that any covering that was used in the Mishkan could acquire, which is that the rule normally is only if it's not connected could it itself become tummy. Once it's connected, it no longer can become tamei. But since Pishtan was one of the coverings, it was the lowest one, the bottommost one, and it's also called generically oil. So therefore, it also can become tamei even when it's mechuber. Well, then we should limit this chumrah only to a covering that was exactly as the Mishkan covering was in the Mishkan, which was, it was shazurin, it was twisted. We'll learn this whole sugyan yuma, that Bechlal, when it comes to the begadim, when it came to the yeriyos, it was beautiful tapestry. Every one of these threads were really twisted out of sticks. So why don't we say that only when do we apply this chumrah, afkan, only when shazurin and v'chutan kaful vav, only then should it become tamei, even if it's connected. So says the Gemara Talmud Loimar, since there in Chukas, the Torah doesn't only say the word oil once, but it says the word oil twice, oil, riba. And what is it being marbe? Any type of flax roof, any type of flax covering. I.e. oil, riba. Why do we say it goes only to flax, even if it's not twisted, even if it's not made out of sticks? Why don't we say kol mile nami? Any material that's used in a roof becomes tamei, even though it's connected. So the Gemara says you can't say that because in Cain, gzeira shava mayahanile. Then what would the gzeira shava be for? Now you can't say who needs to make a gzeira shava. Let's not forget the big rule that ein adam don gzeira shava me'atzmai. The whole rule of gzeira shava is that there's a mesorah about these Gezeira Shavas. So once we have a Gezeira Shava from God that gave it to Moshe, we have to use it. So we're using it for any type of fish. So why don't we say Malahalan Karashin, just like you had wooden beams in the Mishkan? True, they were not on the roof, but they were in the Mishkan. Afkan, if you have Karashin as a roof, Yoitze Min Ha'etz, going back to the Mishnah, they should also be Mitamei. Amakra answers the Gemara, no. It says, V'asisa karashim la mishkan. The karashim are not the mishkan. They are made for the mishkan. Mishkan, kari mishkan. You get the word mishkan now? Mishkan, like we said, is the lowest part. The lowest part is called the mishkan, which is the one of flax, the one that we're talking about. And therefore it can be included in the word oil. But the ein karashim are not called mishkan. They are built for the mishkan. In other words, mishkan and oil can be interchanged. But that's only anything that's part of the roof to the exclusion of all else, to the exclusion of the karashim. Elamiato, when it says va'asisa michsei la'oil, right, mishkan, then they put the oil on the mishkan. Then it says you make a michsei on the oil, like we mentioned, that's made out of animal hide. Achinami, why don't we say that michsei is not called the oil? And like we mentioned, that even though the Mishnah only gave Pishtan as an exception, that's because the Mishnah is only speaking hayotzim and ha'etz. But in truth, any part of the covering of the Mishkan has this chumrah that even when it's mechuber, if it became an oil al hamez, it itself becomes tamei, including animal hide. But why do we say that? Why would we not exclude the michsei as we exclude the karashim? So the Gemara says it can't be that way. Because Ella, if that would have been the case, then the boya of Rabbi Elazar doesn't make sense. What did Rabbi Elazar ask? He asked, if you have hide from a non-kosher animal, does it itself become tamei? Does it acquire tamei even when it's mechuber? If it was an oil on the mace? Hashta, in other words, he had that question. Now that question is based on a premise that oil behema tahira is mekabel tumah. So he wanted to know whether this also goes to the oil of a behema tameya. So the Gemara is saying that if you will exclude the michsei, which means that you will use the rule that if something is mechuber, it's not becoming tamei itself, applying it to any animal hide, including from kosher animals. So by the fact that he does ask this boya is a raya that even though the michsei is not called oil, the michsei, but the michsei is considered part of the mishkan and part of the oil. So why don't we say the same thing by karashim? So answers the Gemara, Shani Hassan, when it comes to the coverings of the Mishkan, the Hadar Ahad Rekra, the Torah re-includes it in the oil, in the Mishkan, as it says, Tichsiv, a parsha right in the beginning of Nasi Mamish, the Nasuhu, es Yiriyosh HaMishkan, the Es oil Moyed, Michseyu, Umichsei Atachash Asher Olav. So what do we learn from this pasuk? Makish Elyon Latachton, that we are comparing the uppermost one to the Tachten. The Tachten doesn't mean the Mishkan. The Tachten is not about the flax. The Tachten is the middle one, the one under the Michse. That Ma Elyahu, Ma Tachten, just like the middle one, Karu oil, that clearly is called oil. So therefore, the Michse, because of this, Hekish is also called an oil. So here for the Michse, we have a Hekish. For the Karashim, we don't have a Hekish, which is why any part, again, the Mishkan, the oil, and the Michse, they are included in this Chumrah, that even if they are Mechuber, they will be Mekabel Tumah. And that's why Rabbi Lazar asks a question. His Baya was, as we'll learn in a moment, what were those hides made out of? Really, again, like we mentioned in the intro, there's a machlekes over here, whether there were 3 coverings or 4 coverings. And if there was a 4th covering, and that was made out of what we call the tachash, which for sure was made out of a tachash, the question is it part of the 3rd or is it a 4th? If that was a kosher animal, then we didn't use non-kosher in the coverings of the Mishkan. And then non-kosher hide will not be included in this chumrah. If the tachash was a non-kosher animal, so therefore non-kosher animal hides were also used in the covering of the Mishkan, so then they are included in this chumrah, and that was his boyer. But for sure, the Mishkan, the oil, and the Michse are all part of this Gezerah Shava, that they are going to acquire themselves Tumah even though they are connected. Beautiful. So now the Gemara continues, Gufan. Let's now analyze the Baya of Rabbi Lazar.
Rabbi, a tachash is an animal that we don't know or doesn't exist anymore?
Oh, Omri, I can't see you. I don't know why I can't see you, but the tachash is an animal that was concealed, as we'll learn on Daf Chav Chesam Beis. It was a unicorn. It was a very beautiful, unique animal, and it was revealed to Moshe because it was needed then. The Gemara explicitly will say on Amid Beis that it did not go extinct, but it was concealed, which means it's somewhere in the world. And that probably means if it's still in the world, there's a purpose for it. So God willing, we're about to build the 3rd Beis HaMikdash. I'm sure we're going to find the Tachash again, and it's going to be used in the 3rd temple. Okay, let's go right in. I like your background, Omri. Beautiful. Let's go back to this question. He asked, is it included in this chumrah? Does it itself acquire tumah even though it's connected? So asks the Gemara, certainly not. Certainly not, because nothing in the Mishkan was made out of non-kosher animals. Says the Gemara, not that quick. No, tachash, that's the name that the Torah calls an animal. That it was his question, as we just explained, whether it was tamei haya, is it a non-kosher species, or tahar haya? And that's why, based on his doubt, he had his boya. Amar Rabbi Yosef, says Rabbi Yosef, and here we'll have a machlekes between Rabbi Yosef and Rava as to what's the answer to his boya, to his inquiry. Amar Rabbi Yosef, ma'ite boya loy tanina, and he quotes the following brayso: Lo yuchsharu lemelecha shamayim ela oir behemat toira b'lvad. That when you use an article for melecha shamayim, it may only be from the hide of a kosher animal, and l'chura, that should include the coverings of the Mishkan, and that will prove that the tachash needed to be from a behemoth tohira. Masav Rababa, hold on. We learned in the Brayso, Rabbi Yehuda says, Shnei Mechso Yisoyu. That really, like we mentioned, aside of the Mishkan and then the oil, the Michse was not one. There were 2 Michses, which means in totality you had 4 coverings to the Mishkan in the Midbar. Shnei Mechso Yisoyu. Echad, the 3rd one, Milmata Lomayla, not the uppermost one, but the one above the goat's hair, was taka out of hide, and that that's oiros elim me'adamim. It was made out of reddened ram hairs, and the echad, and then there was another one above it made out of oiros techashim, the hide from an animal called a tachash. That is Rabbi Yehuda. And Nehemiah says there were only 3 coverings. There wasn't a 4th covering. And michsei echad hoya, it was 1 covering. It was really half and half. In other words, everyone holds that there was hides from reddened rams. The Torah speaks about a tachash, but they sewed them together. It was half of this and half of that, and the diamond, therefore, it looked like min tila ilan. Tila ilan literally means that which hangs from a tree. There's a certain type of cat that's speckled, that in the times of Chazal, it would hang from trees. So it's like a tila ilan. Okay, so the Gemara says, if he's calling the tachash like a tila ilan, the havamina is that the tachash is taka, part of the species of a tila ilan. Cats are not kosher, but tila ilan tamehu. So the Gemara says, no. Hachika amar kimin tila ilanu. it looked like there was a similarity, which is just like the Tefilla was speckled, has a lot of beautiful dots on it, but it's not Tefilla itself. The Tachash was speckled, and again, we're going to say that it was a kosher animal. The Ilu Hassan, Tefilla is Tameh, but here the Tachash itself is Tahar. So that so holds Rabbi Yosef, and therefore, since according to Rabbi Yosef, Tachash is Tahar, no non-kosher hides were used in the covering of the Mishkan. A non-kosher hide that's connected to a structure, it itself will not become Tameh b'tumas mace, b'tumas oil, when it becomes an oil over a mace. Okay, Amar, Rabbi Yosef, Hachi, I'll prove it to you. Therefore, note, since we are saying that Tula Ilan, Tachash is not Tula Ilan, but it looks like Tula Ilan, now it makes sense, the Mitargeminon, that the Targum, on the word Tachash in the Torah, he doesn't say the words Tula Ilan. He says Saz Goina. Saz Goina means, change the Samach for a sin, Shesos B'Gavonam Harbe, that it's a creature that is proud and it's rejoicing on its many colors. It was a multicolored, beautiful animal. But it's not a Tula. And therefore, again, Rabbi Yosef holds that everything in the Mishkan was used from kosher hides, from kosher animals, and therefore non-kosher hides will not become Tameh, will not itself acquire Tuma, the Tumas oil. Rava, however, disagrees with Rabbi Yosef. And Rava will hold oil behema tameya. The metame b'oil hameis. I hold that oil behema tameya is included in this chumrah, and it will acquire Tuma. And you know where I know it from? The Tanya. This Braisa is based on Psukim and Tazriya. The Psukim and Tazriya are speaking about garments. I'm reading out the Psukim there. Beged kiyah by Meged Soras, by Beged Semer, by Beged Pishtan. Oy b'shesiyah be'ed of la Pishtan milat Somar. Then the Pasuk continues, Oy ba'oy. Oy b'chol melechas oy. What did we learn in the Chav Zayin and Aleph on the top? That oy, the oy is extra. Could have says ve'oy. The oy. Oir. Why does it say oy ba'oir riba? That pasuk is including oir behema tamei. It's included in tumas tzoras. Now I know we're jumping from tzoras to tumas hameis. We'll get there in a moment. But first of all, we're going to establish that the rules that if a tzoras appears on a garment, that garment becomes tamei when it meets the criterions of a tzoras. Doesn't only refer to materials, it also refers to hides. And not only hides of kosher animals, but the oy, the Baraisa says, is marba or be'ematameh. Another thing that the oy includes, the shalaka b'yat kohen. What's going to happen if the afflicted tzaras appears on the garment only after the kohen saw it, which is an amazing concept. Tosfos, 5 lines under the Gemara, says that there would be a havamina, that if a kohen looks at a garment and sees nothing wrong with it, even if afterwards a bona fide nega appears on the garment will no longer be susceptible to becoming tamei b'tumas begadim, because it was already declared good by the kohen. One might have thought so. So you need to have this oy, which also will tell you that even if the kohen already looked at this garment, doesn't matter. If later a new nega appears, then it goes back to the rules. And if that nega is a halachic nega, the garment will become declared tamei by the kohen. Furthermore, says the Baraisa, second line in the wide lines, Katzatz mikulan v'asa achas mehen. If you take many materials, all different types of materials, tzemer and pishtim and hides, and you make one garment out of all of them, how do you know that this garment is also still included in the laws of tumas tzoras begadim? So Talmud Leimer, here again, he's quoting the last words in the pasuk that we quoted, oy, v'chol melechas oy, to include tzoras for all the hides. So now what Rava is not speaking out, but it's obvious, you learn the Gemara, that Rava says that we have a binyan av, just like when it comes to negoy begadim, even a hide of a non-kosher animal is subject to. The Mela Rava says, tumas oil, even mechuber, oil of a behema tameya should not be different than an oil of a behema tohira, and therefore it should somehow by default be included in the Gzeira Shava of oil. Says the Gemara, ve'ikal mifra, hold on, how can you make a binyan av? Malinagoyim, that you have the chumrah shekain shesiva eid of tamei b'hem, like we mentioned, right? Daf Chavav and Daf Chav Zayin, that even before it's a beged, once the threads are already ready to be put in the shesi and in the eidav, they're already susceptible to the unique tumah of tzaras, and that's unique, not by shratzim, but so therefore tzaras has chumras. So the Gemara says, no, Rava says you're right. You can't learn it only from Nigei Begadim. Ella will learn the rule that a oil of a behemoth meya is susceptible to Tumas HaMeis, even though it's mechuber from the din of Shratzim, the Tanya. Now, guys, this pasuk we quoted when we learned yesterday that Chav Zayin. Oil ainly ella oil behemoth tohira, oil behemoth meya minayin. Right? This is speaking about if a sheretz touched a garment, a garment made out of a hide of a not a garment. It touched the hide of a non-kosher animal. Talmud loimer oy. So again, just like the koyach of a sheretz to be mitame, it's mitame even the hide of a non-kosher animal. So therefore, again, we're just making a binganav. Same should be with tumas oil. Here again, the Gemara says no. There was a chumrah by shiratzim, even if the sheretz has a size of a lentil, right? It's that little, it can be matame. But negoyim, what's the din of a negoyim, guys? Remember, it's a gris. A gris is 9 times the size of a adasha. So then maybe not. Maybe by oil ames, it's not so chomer like a sheretz. So now the Gemara says negoyim yechichu. Now we have a way you call it tzad hashava and v'chazar adin, and we go back and forth. Each one has a chumrah that the other one doesn't have. What is the common denominator? That what? That oil, tamei bahen. First of all, that oil is suspect to tuma. It's susceptible to tuma, and the Torah does not differentiate between tar and tamei hides, but also oil behemoth tameya, just like oil behemoth tahira. So afani avi oil hameis, that we know that oil tamei boy from the Gzeira Shava oil from the Mishkan. So now by default, says Rava, not like Rabbi Yosef, the nasa boy oil behemoth tameya, oil behemoth tahira. Okay, now I'm here between Rabbi Yosef and Rav. Amalei Rava mi barnish to Ravashi. I don't like the tzad hashava that Rava brought, because I agree with him, but I disagree with his source, because the tzad hashava can be refuted. You're right. Soras needs, we said, the size of a gris. So what? A gris is much smaller than a kazayis. Both of them give off tuma even if they don't have the size of a zayis. One by a dasha, the other one by a gris. A mace is only metame by a kazayis. So therefore, you don't have a tzad hashava. From where will I know if the oil of Tamia is going to acquire tumas hames, tumas oil, even though it's mechubar? Go back to the oil, go back to the Mishkan. What do we have over there? Like we mentioned, the middle covering, called the oil, is made out of noitza shalizim. It's made out of goats here, plucked goats here. And you should know, she'ein metame bin negoyim b'chlal, that material is not suspect. It's not susceptible to becoming tame b'tumas negoyim. Nevertheless, metame b'oil ameis. So therefore, oil b'hema tameya, she'metame bin negoyim, ein adin she'metame b'oil ameis. Okay, so good. So he didn't like Rava's proof. He has a better proof. He has a different proof. But Rava mi barnish and Rava agree against the shita of Rabbi Yosef. Says the Gemara, the Ella, according to this opinion, according to Rava, the Tani Rabbi Yosef, the Braisa that Rabbi Yosef taught, like we learned in Amadalov, that lo yuchshru l'manach hashamayim Ella or behemoth tohirable vad, l'may hilchasa. According to Rabbi Yosef, we know exactly why they said this halacha. No, he wants to prove from over there that in the Mishkan they did not use or behemoth tameya. And therefore, today, the halacha is that if you have a structure and there's a fixed in the structure, a covering from oil behemoth tameya, let Rabbi Yosef, the din will be that it doesn't acquire tumah. And how does he know it from? From the fact that by the Mishkan, only oil behemoth tameya, oil tahira. But according to Rava, that the tachash, obviously, either the tachash was taka behemoth tameya, but regardless, oil behemoth tameya has the same din of oil behemoth tahira. So for what din did Rabbi Yosef teach this brisa if he was only referring to the Mishkan? Being like Rashi says, the Mishkan was a one-time mitzvah to build. So maida hava, we made it. Who cares what it was made out of? What halacha can we learn from it? So the Gemara says, I'll tell you, Rabbi Yosef's Tana was not speaking about the Mishkan at all. He was telling you a din regarding tefillin. It's gavaldik that tefillin can only be made out of hides from kosher animals. That's what he's saying. That tefillin elor behemoth tohayim. Says the Gemara, for that I need a ton of Rabbi Yosef. Tefillin behedya ksiv bohu, a pasuk in Parshas Boy, where it says Lamantia Toiras Hashem beficha, from where Chazal tell us it means from that which you are allowed to put in your mouth. You could only make God's Torah min hamutar beficha. So the Gemara says you're right. So the parchments of the tefillin, taka, I know can only be done from oir behema tohira from beficha, but I wouldn't know regarding the boxes of the tefillin. I would think that maybe the boxes of the tefillin can also be made from hides of non-kosher animals. Lo iran. So the Gemara says, no, why would you think so? The shin of the head tefillin is halacha l'moshe Sinai. And therefore, since you're putting a letter in the box, so the box is like the parchment. And once we already know that the parchment can only be min hamutar beficha, it's logical that the box upon which there is a letter, now the letter is not indented, it's going out, so what? But there's a letter, shin on the right, shin on the left. And even though the tefillin shel yad doesn't have a shin, but why would the box of the yad have a different rule than the box of shel rosh? Indeed. So the Gemara says it's taka was not for that, but the Tana of Rabbi Yosef was to tell you that nikrachos b'sa'aran, that they have to be wrapped. You know, the parshios, if anyone ever saw in the tefillin, when you take them out, they themselves are wrapped. In other words, there's a hair. The hair has to be from that animal, from a kosher animal. And also, the boxes have to be sewn. V'nisparos, and we use sinews. But again, the question is, sinews from what animal? So the Tana was Begidon. Says the Gemara, one second, that Hanami halacha l'moshe Sinai. Again, we don't need the Tana of Rabbi Yosef. The Tanya, tefillin meruba'is, halacha l'moshe Sinai. The fact that they have to be square is halacha l'moshe Sinai. The fact that nikrachis b'sa'arin and v'nisparis begidon is also halacha l'moshe Sinai. So then what do I need Rabbi Yosef for? Answers the Gemara, taka. It's needed to tell you that the straps can only be from kosher animals. You hear also over Ha'amar Rabbi Yitzchak that the ritzuos, they have to be black. Is a halacha l'moshe Sinai? Answers the Gemara, hold on. The fact that they have to be black is a halacha l'moshe Sinai. However, the Hidigimiri shchayres, but halacha l'moshe Sinai never spoke about whether they have to be from a kosher animal. Tohayres migamiri, and for that there is no halacha l'moshe Sinai. And therefore, we needed the Tana Rabbi Yosef to tell you that lo yuchshru b'melecha shamayim elo or behema tohira, and the ritzuos of the tefillin is meleches shamayim. Now asks the Gemara, my havi Allah. The tachash rei b'mei Moshe. Okay, so what? No, it's Rava is not saying that the tachash was a behema tameya. All Rava said is that whatever rule applies to a tohira, we automatically we pass over to a behema tameya. But let's go back to the boya of Rabbi Lazar. What type of animal was the tachash? So Amar Rabbi Law, Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, that Oimer Hoyer Rab Meir, tachash Hoyer b'mei Moshe, Beria b'fnei atzmaya. It was a unique creature. You hear Omri. And there were many doubts about it. We don't know what it was. Forget about kosher and non-kosher. We don't even know whether it's included in the general chaya category, non-domesticated animal category, in behemo. We don't even know that. What we know is that the keren achas hoyisoloi b'mitzchay, that it was unicorn. It was one horn coming out of its forehead. And it appeared only at that time in human history for Moshe, because we needed that tachash for the covering of the Mishkan, whether it was the top fourth covering, whether it was part of the top third covering, and v'asam imenu Mishkan. And after Moshe Rabbeinu used it, here's the words v'nignas. V'nignas means that the species went into hiding. Okay, so now the Gemara says, hold on, let me prove from you over here that by the fact that we are saying that Rav Meir always says that it had a horn. Guys, if you remember in Nida, we had a rule that a horned animal is a siman that it's maligatum aprise parsa, it's a kosher animal. Oh. And don't tell me that what we learned in Nida is only regarding two horns, and maybe here it's one horn, so you can't prove it. No, why not? This is the Amar. The Amar Rabbi Yehuda Zaraya that 1 and 2 is the same. Another tradition that Adam Rishon brought the first carbon, and he brought it out of a ox, and the ox that he used, it had one horn, unicorn. As it says in Pasuk in Tehillim Samachtes, that Vesitav Lashem, we're speaking about praising God. This praise in front of a God, in front of Hashem, is better even than Mishoir Par, than from the bull. Right? We are referring to the carbon of Adam. That was makrin, that was horned, and mafris, and it was hooved. And by the way, we learned this, I forgot where, whether it was in Chulin or even before that, that the creature came out of the ground. It means the first animals came out of the ground, and they came out of the ground the way they stand on top of the earth. So as it protruded, first the horn appeared, and then the hooves appeared. But we're trying to prove from over here that since Adam Arishan brought us shiur, that was unicorn as a carbon, and we know that shiur is a kosher species. So it makes sense that any horn, it doesn't matter, one horn, two horns, it's a kosher species. So the Gemara says, how do you know from this verse that the shiur that Adam brought had one horn, fakert? The word makrin, you have to know digduk. Makrin means two, the horned in plural. So no, you don't know what I really, you read it makrin. When we read Tehillim, we say makrin, makrin mafris. But really there's a kri and there's a ksiv. And the ksiv is mikeren. And again, that's the proof that just like his animal, which was kosher, had one horn, so this klal that any horned animal is kosher applies also to the tachash. So actually he's saying that the tachash was a min of kosher. Because now the Gemara asks, hold on, now that you know that it was horned, so why does that not prove a lifshad mina, the min behemo, that it was a behemo? Why is it a behemo? Because if the only other instance where we find a unicorn animal is from the shiur of Adam, and we know that a shiur is one of the three behema types of animals, so again, why don't we say it's taka like a shiur, which means it's in the species of a behema? Says the Gemara, no, shiur is a unicorn, the shiur of Adam, but there is one type of deer that's also unicorn. So we find by a chaya this concept. Kiven the ika keresh. Look at that. Keresh is the name of this single horned deer. The min chayu and keren. So therefore, the fact that the tachash had one horn, min chayu, and it doesn't bring a raya that it's a min behemo. All right. So
this point, Rabbi, do we know if it's kosher or not, or we don't know still?
So Rabbi Elyahu takes it as a given that it was kosher. That's his raya.
And the question is whether the tachash is the same as this par that Adam Rishon brought?
No. The question was it min behem or min chaya? And the reason why we are comparing it to the animal of Adam is because Adam's shiur is a behema. If there wouldn't have been any other chaya with one horn, then we would say that if it has a unicorn, it's a behema. Because where else do you find it other than by the shiur? But now we refuted that.
But we're not saying that Adam brought a tachash. We're not saying that.
No. Adam brought a shiur, clearly.
Okay.
The tachash was used in the covering, and according to Rabbi Elyahu, Rabbi Lazar had a boya. Rabbi Elyahu knew from this, he made that link. Okay.
In the Koren Talmud, they mention that a tachash could either be a narwhal, which is a type of whale with one horn, or it's a type of whale, and they say it washed up by the Red Sea at the time. Okay. Or maybe a giraffe, which is also spotted like the other animal, and also kind of has similar to a horn. So those are the two animals that they bring up, but also.
So just to point, so he's bringing from the Koren. I know that my Gemara, it says that we don't know what it is. It was unique. Right. Unique means that it's not, even if he's right that it's a giraffe, it's a unique type of giraffe. It's a unique type. It's not a usual creature. Okay. Moving on to the Mishnah. We spoke this out on the intro. It's very simple. We learned that a beged, oh guys, this is a good sugya because we're going into muktzah now. We're coming back into Shabbos. So here we go. A beged that has even only the size of 3 by 3 finger breadths, as long as the fibers are either made out of wool or out of linen, it's considered a beged, and therefore it is susceptible to becoming tummy. It was common that people would take these little patches, these little pieces of garments, and they would fold it over to render them into a wick. So says the Mishnah, Psilas habeged, a wick made out of a garment. If you already folded the garment over, but you did not yet singe it, right? And therefore, you can't mamish call it a wick because it was common then that when is a wick a final ready product? When it was singed. So it was only half prepared. Rabbi Eliezer is of the opinion that it does not become a wick. Wicks are not susceptible to tumah. Begadim are. Rabbi Eliezer holds that just folding them over doesn't transform it halachically into a wick. So it's tameya. That makes sense. And now he adds something that will have to be explained. Therefore, you may not use it. And the Gemara is going to explain that. Rabbi Kiva disagrees with Rabbi Eliezer. He holds that the act of folding over a beged already makes it halachically into a wick. Wicks are not susceptible to becoming tummy, and therefore tahirihi. And therefore, here this also will have to be explained. They may be used. So the Gemara begins by saying, I get the original machlekas, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Kiva, but I don't understand the machlekas of madlikimba or a madlikimba. The Rabbi Eliezer savar kipul einomoil. Just folding isn't enough to make it ois beged. And so therefore it remains as it was before. What was it? A beged. A beged is susceptible to becoming tummy. Rabbi Kiva holds that just kipul, just folding, yes, moil. It's effective. And therefore the status of beged is nullified. There we get. But why would that affect whether you may or may not use it? And why would you not be allowed to use it? So we're going to start today, and God willing, tomorrow Shir Danny will give. God willing, I'll be back for Daf Lamed. But we'll begin with the first answer. Amar Abu Lazar, Amar Abu Ishia, V'chein Amar Abu Abda Barahava, that Ihacha, like we spoke out, Big Gimel, Al Gimel, Mitzum Tzemes Askiran, we're speaking about a minimum size garment, number one. Number two, Ubi Yamtiv Shecholias, Erev Shabbos Askiran, where the Mishnah is speaking Dafka when Friday is Yamtiv. Now, there's nothing wrong taking from an existing flame on Yamtiv and passing it to a new candle, which is what we do when we cook, which is what we do when we light the Shabbos candles. But it's Yamtiv. And therefore what? Now we have to learn two dinim. And then when we put them together like a puzzle, we'll understand the machlokes, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Kiva. The Kula Almei, this is the opinion of Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Ishia, the first answer that we're learning at Chav Chesamid Beis. Everyone subscribes to the rule of Rabbi Yehuda, the Tana Rabbi Yehuda. What is the rule of Rabbi Yehuda? The Amar, Masikin Bekelim, that on Yom Tiv you are allowed to use a full utensil as fuel. Nothing wrong with it. Why would there be something wrong with it? The Ein Masikin B'Shivre Kelim. If a utensil broke on Yom Tiv, and you're saying to yourself, hey, I can't use it anyway, I might as well use it for fuel. Can't do that. Why not? Because there's a rule of muksa. And noilad is muksa. What is the rule of muksa? I think this is the first time that we're mentioning muksa. Muksa means, the word muksa actually means designated for. It's funny how we use the muksa, the opposite of what it really means. Today we say, correctly so, this is muksa, means you can't move it. You can't move it on Shabbos. Muksa means that for something to be allowed to be moved on Shabbos, it needed to be designated prior to Shabbos, prior to Yom Tov, for its usage. Now, I don't mean that the chair that was made needed to be designated explicitly to be used on Shabbos, no. But the fact that the chair was made to be sat upon, and sitting is something that one may do on Shabbos, so the chair was designated to be used on Shabbos. Really, that means the chair was huksa l'Shabbos, but we use it in the opposite turn. So the chair is not muksa, but an article that was not designated to be used on Shabbos. And there are many levels of muksa. One category of muksa will be noilat. If something didn't even exist before Shabbos or before Yom Tov. So how were they designated before to be used for if they were not in the world yet? So even though the utensil existed, but its shards, its parts did not exist. Now that it breaks on Shabbos or on Yom Tov, the broken parts of a keli have a din of muksa, even on Yom Tov. So that's din number one. That's rule number one. We'll see how this plays into the Mishnah. Everyone agrees with that. Another important rule, everyone agrees to the rule of Ula, which is not related at all directly. The Amar Ula, Hamadlik, when you light Shabbos candles, you must make sure that you lit the majority of the wick that protrudes out of the oil. There are similarities between lighting Shabbos candles and lighting the candles in the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash. Just like when it comes to the lighting of the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash, right? The rule that that the kohen has to light it in a way that the fire is already properly burning. Shabbos candles have to be lit that you only fulfilled your mitzvah when the majority of the wick that's leaving the oil that goes above the oil is lit. Now let's put everything together. Now says the Gemara, Rabbi Eliezer, who holds that kipul einoi moyel, that just folding the garment, now we're assuming that these garments were folded before Yom Tov. The Mishnah is speaking about lighting them on Yom Tov, l'kavod Shabbos. That means at the end of the Friday, before 18 minutes before Shkia on Shabbos. So even though they were prepared out of Yom Tov, it had no effect. And therefore it's considered the beged. The beged is a keli. That's rule number one. Rule number two, the kivan, the adlik beipurta, once they caught on fire, but only part of it, not the roiv, not the majority that you have to light. What is it now? It was a beged. If some of it is already burning, you didn't do the mitzvah yet, you still need to actively apply the source until most of it is caught on fire. But before you get to most of it, you have to get to some of it. Once you get to some of it, you destroy the keli. Why did you destroy the keli? That's why we mentioned, because the keli is a beged that's exactly 3 by 3. 3 by 3 means that once some of it begins to burn, there's no keli anymore. You don't have the minimum shiur. Now, what do you have now? You have now muktzah, because you have something that did not exist yet. Oh, the chi komadlik, the shevet keli komadlik. You see, it's gavaldik. If you would not subscribe to Ula, it wouldn't bother me, because I lit it. Later it became noilet. No, you didn't light it until Roiv caught on fire. When only some of it caught on fire, you didn't do the mitzvah yet, but what you did was you broke the keli. Now it's noilet. So now it's muktzah. You can't use something that's muktzah. You're using a muktzah wick. But that's Rabbi Eliezer L'shitasi that holds that the folding was ineffective in rendering it no longer keli, no longer beged. Rabbi Kiva L'shitasi holds kipul yes moyel. This is great. And the premise here is that the person prepared the wicks not on Yom Tov. You would not be allowed to do it on Yom Tov, according to Rabbi Kiva. You're destroying a keli. You prepared the wicks according to everyone before Yom Tov. You're using this folded one on Yom Tov for Shabbos. But since you folded it before already, ve'ein toiras keli olav. And that was designated for wicks. Like any other piece of wood, a non-keli that was designated for fuel. It could be used on Yom Tov. And therefore, gesundheit, you're allowed to use it. Beautiful. So now we see the link that Rabbi Eliezer that holds mamish l'shitasi that kipul ein moyel will hold that ein madlikim ba. We're speaking about on Yom Tov. Rabbi Kiva holds that kipul yes moyel. He holds that umadlikim ba, as based on both Rabbi Yehuda and on Ula. We'll stop over here. And then we're going to have various other approaches in the understanding of our Mishnah.
Rabbi, quick question. Are we using this for the burning? This is for the mitzvah of lighting candles? What is this?
This is the wick. You're using this for the wick.
Yeah, Rabbi, let me ask a follow-up here question here, just on this concept of Ula, of that you need rive of the wick in order to be, let's say, Yaitza lighting Shabbos candles. What does that mean? If you only lit a bit of the wick and then the rest of it caught, then what? You weren't Yaitza Shabbos candles?
Because you did not actively light the candles. What would happen, let's say, if I prepared the candles on my table and by a freak accident, something fell in it and it caught on fire. So there's fire in my home, but I did not do the mitzvah of hadlakas neiros. The definition of lighting is lighting until roiv of the wick is caught on fire.
Right. So just to be clear, according to Rebbe Eliezer, if you had this folded wick and you lit just a bit of it, we wouldn't say that it's a problem of it's only a problem when you're lighting most of it, and that's when the lighting happens, so to speak. If you only lit a little bit of it, that's not considered you making a noilet.
You didn't light it yet, but what you did is that you made it no longer beged now. You broke, it's a shivrei kalim now.
So whether you lit most of it or not, it's still shivrei kalim, no?
No,
if it's exactly 3 by 3.
If I wouldn't have to light the roiv of it, then I would say that the moment I lit a little bit of it, It's boim ka'achas. The moment it became a shivrei kelim, I already did the mitzvah. I did a mitzvah with the keli. Now that it became a shivrei kelim, it doesn't bother me. But if it became a shivrei kelim before I did the mitzvah of adlakas neiros, then how can I do a mitzvah with muktzah? I'm doing the mitzvah after it's muktzah. And again, if I wouldn't need drive, then it would only become muktzah, so to say, later. It wouldn't bother me. I won't be using muktzah for the mitzvah.
And if our fabric was less than 3 by 3, this whole discussion's moot because then
it's then to begin with, it's not a keli. So if it's not a keli, it's not a shivrei keli.
okay.
And also, how can the Mishnah say? I mean, Rabbi is saying Tamei, the first din in the Mishnah is zikr about dinim tumantana.
Right. And are we referring to 3 by 3 at this point that it's Tzemer Pishtan?
Or just a rule. Tzemer Pishtan, yeah.
Okay.
So Rabbi, if the mitzvah actually happened right away, while it became Neled, so then you did your mitzvah, but while it's burning, is that a problem?
No. That's the way I understand. No.
It's not muksa, being that you lit it and it's not lit.
1 second, Avremel. Think about it like this. Aren't candles muksa? Yeah. And we have the mitzvah, we have candles in our homes. No, the fact that it's burning, any burning candle, by default, on Shabbos becomes muksa. But I lit it before then. I'm not doing a sin when I'm lighting it. All right?
No action.
Yeah. Shkoyach, Rabbi. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
So Danny, wait. So tomorrow at 7 a.m.?
Like this. If Danny can give the shirt tomorrow at 7, I need a little more clarity.
No problem.
And I want to add like this. We'll have a discussion about that later. The way I'm a morning person, but maybe